Look at this little guy. Adorable, right? Short legs, long body, probably wearing a sweater. Today, dachshunds are internet celebrities, fashion accessories, and one of the most popular dog breeds in America. But what if I told you this cute little sausage dog was originally bred to fight badgers to the death in underground tunnels? What if I told you that during World War I, Americans literally killed these dogs in the streets because they were too German? And what if I told you that their iconic long body, those stubby legs we think are so cute, actually caused them constant pain and suffering? Today, we're diving into the wild, twisted, and honestly pretty dark history of the dachshund. From fearless hunters to wartime villains to modern fashion statements, this is a story about how humans took a working dog and turned it into something it was never meant to be. Let's get into it. Our story begins in Germany, around the 1400s and 1500s. Back then, Germany wasn't even Germany yet, just a bunch of small kingdoms and territories, and these places had a serious problem: badgers. Now, you might be thinking, badgers? Really? Those cute black and white things? Number. European badgers are not cute. They're mean, they're aggressive, and they can absolutely destroy farmland. They dig huge underground tunnel systems called sets. We're talking tunnels that can go 15 feet deep, with multiple chambers and entrances. Farmers hated badgers. They'd ruin crops, they'd kill chickens, and they were nearly impossible to catch. You can't just dig up an entire badger set. These things are massive. So German hunters needed a solution. They needed a dog that could go into the tunnels and fight the badger underground. Think about what that means. You need a dog that's small enough to fit in tight underground tunnels, long enough to maneuver in cramped spaces, brave enough to face a 30-pound badger with teeth and claws, strong enough to actually win the fight, and smart enough not to get itself killed. So, German breeders got to work. They started with hunting dogs and hounds, and they selectively bred them to be lower and lower to the ground. Shorter legs, longer bodies, stronger jaws, more aggressive personalities. The name tells you everything. Dachshund literally means badger dog in German. Dachs is badger, Hund is dog, and these dogs were good at their job. A dachshund would get sent down into a tunnel system. It would navigate the darkness, find the badger, and then either kill it or force it out where hunters were waiting. Sometimes the dog would grab the badger and the hunters would literally pull the dog backwards by its tail, dragging the badger out with it. This is not a joke. Dachshunds were bred to have thick, strong tails specifically so humans could use them as handles. By the 1600s and 1700s, dachshunds were everywhere in German-speaking territories. Every hunter had one. Every farmer wanted one. They were the ultimate pest control. But here's where it gets interesting. German breeders started creating different types of dachshunds for different prey. You had the standard dachshund for badgers, but you also had smaller miniature dachshunds for hunting rabbits in their warrens. And you had different coat types, smooth, wire-haired, and long-haired, depending on the terrain and weather. These weren't pets. These weren't companions. These were working dogs with a dangerous, violent job. And they were absolutely fearless. There are stories of dachshunds taking on foxes, rabbits, even wounded deer. They had this crazy prey drive and zero sense of self-preservation. By the 1800s, the dachshund was basically a German national symbol. German nobility loved them. Kaiser Wilhelm II had several. They appeared in German art, literature, and culture. This was Germany's dog. In the mid to late 1800s, waves of German immigrants came to America, and they brought their dogs with them. At first, Americans were confused by dachshunds. Remember, most American dogs were big, hunting hounds, working dogs, shepherds. This weird long German thing looked ridiculous to them. But German-American communities loved them. In cities like New York, Chicago, and Milwaukee, anywhere with large German populations, dachshunds became popular. They reminded immigrants of home. The American Kennel Club officially recognized the dachshund in 1885, and slowly, they started catching on with non-German Americans too. Why? Because American cities were different from European farms. In cities, you didn't need a hunting dog. You needed a small dog that could live in an apartment. The dachshund was the perfect size. Plus, they had personality. Dachshunds are stubborn, they're loyal, they're funny. Americans started falling in love with them, not as hunters, but as companions. By the early 1900s, dachshunds were one of the most popular breeds in America. Dog shows featured them. Wealthy families owned them. They were everywhere. The dachshund had successfully transitioned from working dog to pet. And then World War I happened. When World War I broke out in 1914, anti-German sentiment in America was relatively mild at first. But when the U.S. entered the war in 1917, everything changed. Americans turned violently against anything German. German language was banned in schools. German books were burned. Towns with German names changed them. Sauerkraut became Liberty cabbage. Hamburgers became Liberty steaks. And the dachshund, the symbol of Germany, it became a target. Political cartoons showed dachshunds as German soldiers. Propaganda posters depicted them as evil, as symbols of the enemy. The once beloved dog became associated with Kaiser Wilhelm and German aggression. But it got so much worse than cartoons. There are documented cases of Americans killing dachshunds in the streets, just attacking them because they were German dogs. Owners were harassed. Some people abandoned their dachshunds to avoid being seen as unpatriotic. In one particularly awful incident in 1918, a dachshund was publicly beaten to death in Illinois while a crowd cheered. The dog's owner was German-American, and this was considered acceptable. Breeders stopped breeding them. Dog shows stopped featuring them. Dachshund registrations with the AKC dropped by more than 90%. The breed nearly went extinct in America. The American Kennel Club even temporarily renamed them Badger dogs to avoid the German association. It didn't really help. After the war ended in 1918, it took years for the dachshund to recover its reputation. Throughout the 1920s, they slowly came back into favor, but the damage was done. An entire generation of Americans associated dachshunds with enemy propaganda. And then, just as the breed was recovering, World War II happened. You'd think America would have learned its lesson, but no. Anti-dachshund sentiment came back during World War II, though not as violently. Still, the breed's reputation suffered again. It wasn't until the 1950s and 60s that dachshunds really made a comeback in America, and when they did, they came back as something completely different. Post-war America was all about suburban family life, and the dachshund fit perfectly into this new world. They were small enough for suburban homes. They were quirky and fun. They had personality. And, most importantly, nobody remembered them as badger hunters anymore. They were just cute little dogs with funny proportions. Hollywood helped. Dachshunds started appearing in movies and TV shows. They became fashionable accessories, especially miniature dachshunds. Celebrities owned them. But here's where things went wrong. As dachshunds became more popular as pets, breeders started breeding for looks instead of function. Remember, original dachshunds were working dogs. They needed to be athletic, strong, and healthy to hunt badgers. But pet owners didn't care about hunting ability. They cared about how the dog looked. So breeders started exaggerating the dachshund's features. They made the bodies longer. They made the legs shorter. They bred for specific coat colors and patterns that would win at dog shows. If you compare a working dachshund from the 1920s to a modern show dachshund, the difference is shocking. Modern dachshunds have bodies that are proportionally much longer and legs that are much shorter. This looks cute to us, but it's a disaster for the dog. Dog shows and kennel clubs rewarded these exaggerated features. Judges would measure body length, looking for the longest, lowest dogs. The more extreme the proportions, the better the chance of winning. That long back and those short legs, that's not natural. It's not how dogs are supposed to be built, and it causes serious health problems. About 1 in 4 dachshunds will experience intervertebral disc disease, or IVDD, in their lifetime. This is when the cushioning discs between the vertebrae and the spine rupture or herniate. For dachshunds, this often leads to partial or complete paralysis. One day your dog is fine. The next day it can't move its back legs. 1 in 4. That's 25% of all dachshunds. Think about that. If you know 4 dachshund owners, statistically one of their dogs will become paralyzed. And it's not just spinal issues. Dachshunds are prone to hip dysplasia, knee problems, obesity because they can't exercise properly, and dental issues. We bred them to look cute, and in doing so, we condemn them to pain. Today, dachshunds are consistently in the top 10 most popular dog breeds in America. They're everywhere. They're meme stars. They're fashion accessories. But behind every cute dachshund photo is a dog whose body is slowly failing because of what we did to it. Let's talk about what dachshunds face today. There's an entire industry now of dachshund wheelchairs and carts for paralyzed dogs. That should tell you something. These dogs are getting paralyzed so often that there's a profitable market for mobility devices specifically designed for them. The average cost of IVDD surgery for a dachshund is between $3,000 and $8,000. Many owners can't afford it. Some dogs get euthanized because their owners can't pay for the treatment. And here's the thing. This is preventable. If we bred dachshunds to be more proportional, with slightly longer legs and shorter bodies, we could dramatically reduce these problems. Some breeders are trying to do this, breeding for health instead of show standards. They're creating dachshunds that look a little different, more athletic, more proportional. These dogs are healthier. They live longer. They have fewer medical problems. But the major kennel clubs and dog shows still reward the exaggerated look. They're literally incentivizing unhealthy breeding. If you own a dachshund, or you're thinking about getting one, here's what you need to know. Never let them jump off furniture or go up and down stairs repeatedly. Their spines can't handle it. Support their spine when you pick them up. Use both hands, one under the chest and one under the rear. Keep them at a healthy weight. Every extra pound puts more stress on their back. Watch for warning signs. Reluctance to move, yelping in pain, dragging back legs. And honestly, consider adopting instead of buying from a breeder. There are thousands of dachshunds in shelters and rescues, many of them there because their owners didn't understand the health issues or couldn't afford the vet bills. These dogs need homes and deserve second chances. If you learned something today, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into pet history. Support ethical breeders, adopt rescue dogs, and always prioritize health over looks. Drop a comment if you have a dachshund or if you know other breeds with wild histories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.